Okay. Just as a reminder for everyone, today's session is being recorded. We do edit our recordings and put them onto the Transforming Communities Institute YouTube channel. The only thing that is recorded is the presentation and voices. So if you would like to have your camera on, you are more than welcome to keep your camera on or have it off. That is your choice. But I do want to thank everyone for being here today. As an introduction, my name is Teresa Larson. I am a researcher for the Transforming Communities Institute at Utah State. We facilitate the continuing education offerings for the Utah State University Social Work Department, who is a sponsor for our continuing education credits today. As I said previously, please ensure that your Zoom name matches the name that you would like to have acknowledged on any continuing education information. That will just ensure that we can match everything when certificates are sent. You will have to complete an evaluation following today's session in order to receive your continuing education certificate. So please look for that in your email following today's session. Before we get started, I would like to provide the Utah State University land acknowledgement. And that is, as a land grant institution, Utah State University campuses and centers reside and operate on the territories of the 8 tribes of Utah, who have been living, working, and residing on this land from time immemorial. These tribes are the Confederated Tribes of the Goshute Indians, Navajo Nation, Ute Indian Tribe, Northwestern Band of Shoshone, Paiute Indian Tribe of Utah, San Juan Southern Paiute, Skull Valley Band of Goshute, and White Mesa Band of the Ute Mountain Ute. We acknowledge these lands carry the stories of these nations and their struggles for survival and identity. We recognize elders past and present as peoples who have cared for and continue to care for the land. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous self-governance history, experiences, and resiliency of the Native people who are still here today. So again, thank you for coming. And we are excited to have our session today about the Social Work Interstate Compact with Laura Groshong. And as we go through today, please make use of the chat. We will be monitoring it, as well as Laura will take time at various points to answer questions throughout the presentation. But to introduce Laura, Ms. Groshong is a licensed independent clinical social worker in Seattle and has been in clinical private practice for the past 48 years. She was a registered lobbyist in Washington State for 25 years. She is the director of policy and practice for the Clinical Social Work Association and lobbies for CSWA nationally and in affiliated states. She has written and lectured extensively on clinical and legislative issues around the country, and she has received numerous honors for her work. As part of today's session as well, I will be providing the information for the Clinical Social Work Association in the chat for you all to explore further and encourage you all to look into what is offered from this organization and how it might benefit you to join their efforts. And so with that, I give the time over now to Laura, and let me know if you need anything.
Thank you, Teresa. I am delighted to be here today. I noticed that one of our CSWA board members, Jaylee Cox, is on this call. Hi, Jaylee. And I don't know if Marissa's here or not, but anyway, this presentation is sponsored by the Clinical Social Work Association, who I work for. And this is hot off the presses because there was the first meeting of the Compact Commission was last Tuesday. And you are the first group to hear about what happened there and what's going to be happening going forward. So this is very exciting and new information, and I'm open to any questions you have. As Teresa said, I'll answer questions like every 10 minutes or so. So if I don't answer it right away, please wait, and I definitely will. Let's begin. So, this is information I've put together about the Social Work Compact. It's not legal advice. To get legal advice about the compact, you should contact a Utah or federal healthcare attorney. The compact includes theoretically all of the states and jurisdictions in the US. It's just US based, not any other country. And as of today, there are 22 states that are part of the compact. The Council of State Governments, which has organized the compact, said this is the fastest start they have ever seen out of the 16 compacts that exist. So that's very good news. We are hoping to get a few more states, and hopefully we'll get up to the 40s sometime, and that will be very good for everybody. So if you want to see information about the compact and from the Council of State Governments, this is the place to go. And you will be getting all of these slides after I'm done, so you don't have to worry about copying any links. But this is the organization that has oversight for the compact at this time, and was the organization that put together the group that created it. So let's start at the beginning. What is a compact? And basically, it's a group of licensed professionals from many states that agree to have certain standards to work across state lines. And become part of the compact, every state has to have their state legislature pass the compact bill, and the governor has to sign it. So that is what's required. This is actually the result of legislation that your state passed in the past year. And I'm sorry, that is incorrect. I said there have been more compacts since I wrote this. There are actually 16 professions that have compacts. I'll be showing you a slide that illustrates which professions those are shortly. The psychologists had the largest mental health compact. They've been around for about 10 years. They were one of the first. And the counselors just started theirs last year. I have often gotten questions as to why it took social workers longer to get their compact going. And the answer is that there were to start the process, council and state governments has to have a request. And before CSWA made the request, no one had asked for a compact. So I'm pleased that we took the initiative to get this going. Here is the list of all of the compacts that currently exist. And they're all slightly different. And they in terms of their structure, but the basic principle that all of the people in these professions that decide to join the compact have to have a state that has passed the compact law and have to join as individuals. And that is the way that most compacts work. There are some other models besides the one I'm going to be giving you that apply to social workers, but that principle is true across all the compacts. So here is how the process went. The original purpose was that we had noticed, CSWA had noticed, that military spouses had problems taking their licenses with them if they were social workers, especially clinical social workers, when their spouse was redeployed. And so we applied primarily to give those folks a chance to take their license to other states without having to get relicensed. The whole effort has been funded by the Department of Defense, and that's true of all the compacts. And they provided the $500,000 funding that allowed the staff of CSG, the Council of State Governments, to start working on a compact for social workers. And that was in September of 2021. And this is a branch of the council that does nothing but set up compacts. So they are very familiar with all the ins and outs and issues that need to be considered to have a compact be formed and functioning. So the first thing CSG did was create a technical assistance group, which was called TAG. And there were 20 social workers, regulators, and other members of CSG that met to develop the bill. That was the purpose of this group, to develop the bill that would be passed by the states. And CSWA had 2 representatives. That was our president at the time, Kendra Roberson, and myself. We met once a month virtually, and twice we met in person at the beginning and at the end for 18 months. So this was a pretty extensive process. So the creation of the bill is, as I mentioned, that every state had to pass it and sign it into law to become a compact state. And that is the bill that we worked on. All the members of the TAG had to agree on the language. And it is notable that the fact that the compact was getting started at the height of the pandemic, really, was 2021. And of course, it started in March of 2020. But that is, people had to be working through telehealth then, and that increased interest in having a way to work in other states because we had the tools now to be able to do that. Before the pandemic, I think just off the top of my head, I'd say no more than 10% of clinical social workers were working virtually. And by the time the pandemic really started, it got to be about 95%. So that was a huge incentive for the development of the compact. And people ask, why did it take so long? And it takes CSG a staff of 10 to develop one compact. It's quite involved because there are legal issues, ethical issues. They have to meet with stakeholders in the field. And so that is, it takes a while. So even though people are a little miffed sometimes that the counselors have got a compact before we will, we're going to get there, and we will be. It will be fine. So before the compact, there was a way to work in other states. It was called reciprocity, but there weren't very many states that had reciprocity, meaning if you're licensed in your home state, you can take that license to another state and use it without getting licensed in that state. That's what we call a bottom-up kind of approach to reciprocity. The compact is more top-down. That is, any LCSW that has joined from a state that has joined the compact can join the compact without having to get licensed anywhere else. So let's take a short break here, Teresa. What's turned up in the chat?
We had one question about the website, but I added the link, so I think that one's covered. Do any folks have any questions that they would like to bring while we're on our question break?
I have a question. When you say join the compact, what does that exactly mean as far as like, is there an additional sort of payment you have to be like, you have to pay an extra fee or something to be involved in that group? Or is it just, I have my LCSW in Utah, so now I can practice because of the compact in the other states?
Yes, I'm going to get into this in a lot of detail. But there is a fee. Typically, it's not much, and I'm going to get into that too. There's 2 steps to joining. Your state has to pay a fee as well, but that's not from you. That would be from your board. So that's how the funding side of it works. I do see another question from Candace. And it says, does the website you shared let us know which states are included? I actually have a list that I will be sharing in a few more slides. So you will see that. Okay. Let's move on. Oh, and here it is. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing this slide and go to I'm going to have to come back to that because I thought I had it pulled up, but I don't see it. There we go. So here you go. This is the, these are all the states, the dark blue states that have joined the compact currently. And it's kind of interesting that they're kind of congregated across the midsection, and a few in the south, a few in the northeast, and of course Washington up there. But I think it's areas with more rural populations are this appeals to them because there are a lot of therapy deserts out there. And if you can work with anyone in your home state or after the compact is going, you can work in any state that where someone resides that has is connected to the compact. So there's that. And I am giving you the link so you can look at that if you, whenever you want.
There
All
we go.
right. Yep. Good.
We do have a question in the chat though that relates
Okay.
to the compact map. So it says, just to clarify, all dark blue states are currently in the compact. There is no need to get a new license in one of those states, but we would just need to pay a fee per state to practice there. Is that correct?
No, there is a single fee that everyone will pay to the compact commission. That is, and all you need to do is pay the fee for joining the compact. Then you have access to all the dark blue states. And I didn't mention that the light blue states, there are 3 of those, are pending at the moment. But so it is not a fee by which state you're working in. It's a fee based on your being someone in a compact state that wants to join the compact. So what are the benefits of the compact? Let's go over those a little bit. And here, this may answer some of the questions that are coming up about what do you have to do to actually join the compact as an individual? First of all, your home state, that is where you are residing, not where you work, but where you reside. Okay, if that state has joined the compact, you are eligible to join the compact as an individual. And the fees for doing all of this are to be determined. They are, the commission is just starting, and over the next 6 to 12 months, they'll be writing these rules. So that's something that has to happen if you want to be part of the compact. The other item is you can't have any actionable complaints against you. And does that mean if you've ever had one, or if you have one currently? Probably for sure the second one. The first one will be determined by the commission in rule. So one other here are some more benefits. This will ease mobility for licensees. It's been a real problem that we can't work in other states unless we are able to get licensed there. So this is going to resolve that in many, many states. Not all, because not all states are going to join the compact. And let me take a moment here to give you a sidebar, which is that yesterday Congress passed a bill which will allow us to be reimbursed for without seeing people in person. As some of you may know, Medicare had passed a rule that said, if we're working virtually, we have to see our patients in person at least every 6 months, which is impossible if you're working with someone who is thousands of miles away. And that passed out of committee yesterday, and it will no longer be the case. The Congress eliminated that rule and said it will be reviewed again in 2 years. So at this point, because it was due to end in December, if the bill passes Congress, and it is very likely it will, we don't have to worry about seeing people in person for the next 2 years until the end of 2026, which is very good news. And I'm hoping by then it will be embedded enough that there will never be any question about being covered for virtual treatment. So it's relevant to this issue. So expand it gives you a chance to work in other markets if you choose to do so. It allows for continuity of care when clients move to a new jurisdiction. If they move to a compact state, then you can continue to see them without any problem. If they don't, and this applies to students as well. That's probably the most common question I get. If you're seeing somebody in your home state and they move somewhere for education, can you continue to work with them? And until the compact is in place, the only way to do that is to get licensed in the state to which they have moved. So that will be a big advantage. Looks like a few questions have built up, Teresa.
Yes, we have 2 questions in the chat. The first one is, can you join as a CSW or do you need to be an LCSW?
And CSW is a new grad, right? Is that?
In the state of Utah, it's just a certified social worker, so they
Okay.
typically have a master's degree,
Okay.
but they're not practicing therapy necessarily.
And they're not fully licensed, right?
Mhm.
As a clinical social worker.
Yeah.
There are 3 levels that the compact will oversee. And licensed clinical social worker is by far the largest group. There are over 365,000 clinical social workers in the United States. And there's and CSW is what I consider new grads. And there's about, let's see, about 100,000 of those. And some people don't choose to go further than that. They're not doing clinical work, or they're not working independently, and they don't need to. So that is a group that can be joined if you have your master's. And then there's bachelor level, and that is for folks who are working, who have their bachelor's in social work. And that is, of course, the CSW and the BSW have to be under supervision. So that's part of the requirement for joining at those levels.
Great, thank you. The next question in the chat is, does the virtual therapy clause with needing to see someone in person every 6 months only refer to those who receive Medicare, or is that all clients?
Well, I think it's pretty well known that what happens in CMS, which oversees Medicare, frequently, if not always, gets adopted by commercial insurers. So it was very likely that insurers would have started applying this if it had gone through. And it's a barrier to care. It's all kinds of things that are problematic. But I think it's very likely that it would have applied to all insurance once Medicare said it was required.
Great, thank you. Do any folks have follow-up questions or additional questions they would like to ask at this time?
All right. Good questions. So let's move on. Some more benefits. This really leverages virtual therapy, as I've mentioned a couple times. It during the process of developing the compact, Congress passed a bill saying that military spouses could take their licenses with them, not just as clinical social workers or other kinds of social workers, but that became moot because that bill was passed. So that part is not necessary the way it was, but this still is an important development for other people who are, for all the reasons I've just mentioned. Okay. So, I'm going to talk now about the benefits for specifically Utah LCSWs. I don't have information on the CSWs or BSWs, but that is not what I've been focusing on because we're a clinical social work group. But let me give you this information on the clinical social workers. And there are over 6,100 LCSWs in Utah, a pretty good number. Utah was the third state to join the compact. That was very impressive. And any individual LCSW in Utah can join the compact when the commission opens up the opportunity to do so. And that should be in about a year. And the fees for individuals joining should be reasonable. That is about $50 to $75 a year, but that will be determined by the commission. And as I've mentioned, you won't have to get licensed anywhere else. If they are a compact state, you'll be able to work there. So going to regulations. I realize this is not the most entertaining information, but I just want you to have all this so that you know what's coming. I like to be entertaining, but when I'm talking about regulation, it's challenging. There will be a shared data system that reduces administrative burdens. And that this is across the states, because all data is going to be shared by all compact states. So for instance, if there's a state that has someone who is has an actionable complaint against them, every state in the compact will know about it. And they will have to decide whether they are willing to let that person work until the complaint gets resolved. The information will be much quicker to do investigations and discipline when that occurs. And it should reduce application processing time because you will not have to apply. You'll just be part of the compact, and that will take care of the problem. You won't have to get licensed anywhere else. I know somebody who really wanted to work in other states, and she wound up getting licensed in 18 states, which seems like a lot, and but it was worth it to her, so that's what she did. She will not have to do that unless there are states that don't join the compact. And I'm sure there will be states that don't. I just had somebody who wanted to work with someone in Massachusetts, and they are probably not going to join the compact, and they require people to get licensed in Massachusetts if you want to work with someone there. I think the same will be true in California and New York, and a handful of other states that just have not joined any compacts. And it's unfortunate. Those are some fairly large groups, and but there's a way of thinking that says, how do we know that people from other states are going to be able to live up to our standards? Because, as you know, some states have higher standards of supervision. They have different ethical standards. There are issues with the other laws in states. There are many people who have concerns. If I'm working with someone in Texas and I live in a state that has much more progressive reproductive rights, am I going to be at risk if I counsel somebody on or talk about their feelings about needing an abortion? So those things are yet to be determined. But at the moment, it's the home state. And so if anybody, for instance, in the situation I just made up, if somebody in Texas filed a complaint against you for doing that, then that complaint would be referred to your home state. And your home state would likely dismiss it because it is legal in that state. So that is an example of the kinds of things that will be determined as the compact gets rolled out.
Laura, we have a question in the chat that is kind of along this same regulatory concern.
Okay.
So Utah recently changed licensure requirements for LCSWs For example, reducing required hours post MSW from 4,000 to 3,000. Is there a concern that such changes could impact Utah's ability to participate in the compact? And more broadly, what happens when states who are part of the compact change their licensure requirements? Are there minimum standards for participation?
Yes, there are. And good question. There are the standard that is used in the compact was the standard used by most states. And while I commend Utah for having the 4,000 hour requirement, that is not what most states have used. So most states have the 3,000 hours. So that is the standard that must be reached to become a compact state. And I think there's only a couple states that don't have that. So we'll see what happens if they join the compact. But that is, I don't think there's a standard for supervision. I can't remember that off the top of my head. I think I have it in a later slide though. So that should not affect Utah LCSWs at all. In fact, it's exactly in line with what others the compact requirements are. And if you went below 3,000, there might be a problem, but that would be to be determined.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. So the cooperation among compact states is something that should help the people that are engaging in unprofessional behavior be identified. And it's unfortunately true that if people, some in the past, and by the way, we do have the lowest rate of complaint among all of the mental health disciplines. And I attribute that to our excellent codes of ethics. But if there are some people who do unprofessional things or unethical things, and if they are in a compact state, and if something gets reported to the commission, then that will be known to all the compact states. So it also will provide a tool for addressing the workforce shortages I alluded to earlier. It will give people access to clinical social workers, especially in rural areas, while preserving state sovereignty. And that was a really important part of the compact, that standards were not going to be applied from other states, that there are going to be a baseline of experience and supervision. And the one thing I didn't mention is you have to have passed an national examination or have an alternative path to licensure. And I'll be talking about that a lot more. But that's it's a state issue at this point, as long as the floor that's established by the compact is met. So requirements, and here it is. It passed the national qualifying exam. Have an MSW, this is only for LCSWs, and have 3,000 hours or 2 years postgraduate supervised clinical experience. Now, you'll see that asterisk. there is an option in the bill that says an alternative path to licensure besides the exam may be used. And a state has to provide something that is equal proof of competence to passing the exam. And Illinois so far is the only state that has gone that route. And they say if you fail the exam once and you want to get more supervised hours, and in Illinois' case, it's 3,000. So instead of 3,000 supervised hours, you have to have 6,000. That will be considered proof of competence. Now, this is happening in tandem with the controversy about the ASWB exams, the Association of Social Work Boards. They are the ones who create the 4 exams that people use to become licensed as social workers. In August of 2022, they published a report, and remember, this is right in the middle of our deliberations about creating the standards for the Social Work Compact. They published a report that showed a major discrepancy in pass rates for the clinical exam. It was true in other levels too, but we're concerned with the clinical here, between white social workers and Black social workers. Black social MSWs who had done their supervised experience were passing at a 40% less than white MSWs. That's a significant gap. There was a 30% drop for older CSWs, people who were not in their 20s and 30s. And there was a 20% drop for people who used English as a second language. So all of these were cause for concern, but the primary one was the largest group was Black social workers. So that is, when that came up in our deliberations, there was some feeling that the test should not be required for people to join the compact. And we spent many hours going over what to do about this report. And because if the exams are biased, is it fair to require people to pass them? And ASWB has since issued several more reports. They've explained what they're doing to create exams that are not biased and make it possible for people who are in these 3 groups, especially Black social workers, to pass the exam at parity with white social workers. And as you can imagine, it's a very charged area. And there's a lot of other things going on to challenge whether ASWB should be overseeing these exams, how they're going to address the problems that have been identified. And I do give them credit for issuing the information, but it could have been done a lot earlier because they knew about this. Nonetheless, at least something is being done now. And CSWA has written about this extensively. Here's a link to some of the things I've written about this problem. And we do not support getting rid of the exam, flawed as it may be, because if we did, we'd be the only discipline that doesn't have one, and that could undermine our credibility as independent clinicians. So I'm going to move now to the commission, which I've talked about a little bit. Are there any other questions, Teresa?
There are no others in the chat currently, but if anybody has any that they would like to put now, feel free.
Right. All right, I must be doing something right. No one has any questions. Okay, so the Compact Commission is the group that is going to run this thing. And this is an intergovernmental agency. It's created by the Compact delegates and the Council of State Governments. It is authorized to collect the fees I mentioned to fund the compact. And somebody had asked earlier about what states are currently in the compact. Here's your list. These are the current 22 states that have passed the bills and are in the compact as we speak. And I met with representatives from all of them on Tuesday. And it's a very, very solid group for this, starting this process. So the commission will be the governing body. We only needed 7 states to create the commission, but we have 22, which is plenty. I mean, a lot more than we need. So the commission will create the regulations that administer the compact. And the delegates from each state are appointed by the social work boards, and the representatives, and they can be a member of the board, they can be an LCSW, but it's the board that has that authority. And there are going to be 4 positions for national social work organizations to have representatives as well. They will be ex officio. That means they will not have a vote, but they will have the ability to create input to the commission. So the next meeting of the commission will be in January of 2025. The officers will be elected from the delegates, and each state has 1 delegate. And they are the ones who create the rules to run the compact.
Very good.
Is there a question? Okay. So the rules, these are the rules that will have to be created by the compact commission. What is a home state? That may sound kind of self-explanatory, but there are places where people live in one state and work in another, and it is within the purview of the commission to decide that they're going to allow people to use their place where they work as their home state, but that is not the usual way these are run. A uniform data set has to be created for reporting requirements. And that's a big job. But there are some templates that other compacts have used that should make it a little easier. There are administrative issues, like what are the dues? What are the fees? And what's the application process? All of that will be determined by the commission. And who the ex officio groups will be, that will be determined as well. Looks like a few people have commented in the chat. Any questions, Teresa?
I think Jaylee answered them in the chat, but it was around the exam. And folks were asking if they had to take a different exam, but Jaylee responded to that.
Oh, good. Thank you, Jaylee. Yes, exactly. Jaylee used to be my supervisee, and I'm so glad she was listening to what I told her. All right. So moving on. Here are some more of the rules that have to be created by the commission. There will be disciplinary definitions. And these will be, is it a minor infraction? Is it something that would deactivate someone? What's a disqualifying event? Encumbrance. These are very legalistic terms. And what is a qualifying license that we generally don't have to think about, but for purposes of the compact, this is going to be really important. This will be the cornerstone of what is expected of the licensees who join. So the first commission meeting was last Tuesday, September 17th. It was 5 hours long. The CSG asked me to be the interim chair, which I have accepted. So I ran that meeting. There were representatives from all 22 states. Jana Johansson, who is the licensing director in Utah, was your representative. And I thought you might like to know that if you want to have contact with somebody who will be attending these meetings regularly. And there were 85 members of the public present as well. So it's a very robust meeting. So it may sound like we did, why did we need 5 hours to go over these things? These first decisions, it's very complex. And most of the people who are on the commission have never been in an organization like this before. They didn't know each other. And so just the whole process of getting to know each other and talking through the issues was, as you know, those of you who do group work know it takes a while. So that it was basically getting to know you and understanding jointly what the task of the commission will be. The next meeting will be in January. Date is not selected yet. The officers will be elected, as I mentioned, and the target for implementation of the compact is fall of next year, possibly early 2026. But it's not happening tomorrow, and it's again, frustrating that it's taking so long, but this is the process. It takes a while to get everything lined up for the commission to be in place and people to join the compact. So what is CSWA's role? We continue to be involved in the development of the compact. Right now, it's because I'm the interim chair of the commission. And we will continue to offer input as to what we think will work best. And we will either attend meetings as an ex officio member or an observer and provide ongoing information to the social work community about what to expect. So this is really a brief overview of what the compact's going to be about. There are 22 states that have passed the compact bill. They will all be part of the compact, and there will probably be 10 to 20 more that join. Commission will be created by the fall of 2025. LCSWs have to have a home state that has joined the compact, and LCSWs must have passed the ASWB clinical exam and have 3,000 supervised hours, unless they have found an alternative pathway to licensure, as Illinois has done. So it looks like there are a few questions.
Yes, we have some that have come in, and Jaylee has responded to a couple, but I think it would be worth having your thoughts as well.
Okay.
So one person put in that Utah also provides an alternative pathway to licensure if somebody has taken and not passed the ASWB exam at least once. And they were wondering
is that for clinical or for masters, CSW?
For the LCSW. So they have an alternate pathway for that, but only if they've attempted to take the exam.
Okay, so that is like Illinois.
Yeah.
Do you know when that went into effect?
Jaylee did respond with that, and it was part of the bill that reduced the hours from 4,000 to 3,000. So it's
okay,
part of that similar.
I'm glad to know about that.
And then one person asked, how are the state representatives for the compact commission selected?
They're selected by the Board of Social Work. That they're the ones who determine who is going to be their representative.
I guess this one's not in the chat, but more of a follow-up from myself. How do folks get involved if they would like to either attend as a public member? Do they have to be part of the Clinical Social Work Association? What does that look like if they want to be part of those meetings?
Anyone can attend as a public member. And you can find the schedule on the CSG website. Probably CSWA will be posting the meetings as well. And but it's my job to make sure you get all the information if you don't join the meetings, because 5-hour meetings are a lot. And it's they're not all going to be 5 hours. This the first one was. So it's that's the process though. That any public member, and there's always a time for public comment. So that's the story.
Wonderful, thank you. And then the last question that Jaylee did respond to, but I will also have you respond to is, so for now, when practicing out of state, we either need to be licensed in that state or a state that has reciprocity, correct?
Yes, and just because, I mean, you have to get approval from the other state in order to work there. You can't just start working in with a citizen of another state unless you have gone through the process. There's always a way you apply and are then granted reciprocity. So it's important to make sure you've gone through that process before you start working if a state has reciprocity.
Wonderful, thank you for clarifying. There are no other questions in the chat, but if anybody wants to add to the chat really quick or wants to verbally ask a question, you are welcome to do that now.
Okay, well, this is the end of my presentation. So I will be happy to be available if anything else comes up. Oh, here's one.
Oh, that's a thank you.
Oh,
They're
okay.
excited about the compact.
Great.
Well then, I will do my end of session announcements for folks. And if you do have a question for Laura that comes up while I'm doing those, put it in the chat. So thank you, Laura. We're obviously excited. Folks are really glad that this is happening in our state. So thank you for sharing more about what's going on with the compact. This session does you do have the opportunity to get continuing education credits. And so if you're interested in doing that, I'm putting the evaluation link in the chat, but you will also receive it in the follow-up email after today's session. That does have to be completed to receive your continuing education credits. And it's open for about a week and a half. So if you can't do it today or you want to think about it, you can take it over the next week and a half. And then all of the certificates will get sent in about 2 weeks. So keep an eye out for those. We also have our next month's session already planned and ready for you all to register. And I'm going to put the information for that in the chat as well. The focus is on psychopharmacology, and it will be presented by CJ Sorensen. And it's on Friday, October 18th in the same time frame of 12 to 1:30 p.m. in Mountain Time, and the link is there. If you have any questions, feel free to send them my way ahead of time. And then, let's see. If you would like to follow the Utah State University social work department, they always provide information about their upcoming sessions or the Transforming Communities Institute. We also share on social media all of the continuing education sessions. Sorry, I'm pulling up our QR codes that I forgot to pull up earlier that I will share, so you can go ahead and follow us on those pages. You are also welcome to join our email list, which can be found on those social medias sites, as well as will be sent in our follow-up email. I think that is everything I have. Again, if you have questions that you want to put in the chat really fast for Laura, feel free. It looks like there was a question, so the link for the next session I will send in the follow-up email as well. So you will have access to that through your email.
Thanks for all your help, Teresa, in organizing this and for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Right, I do have one question that came in a direct message to me. That's a Utah supervision question, so I don't know if you would know about it.
Well,
I'll read it for you though.
okay.
So it says, as of May 1st, 2024, CSWs need 25 hours of direct observation supervision. Wondering why this isn't a requirement during the MSW program, as it would make more sense to have it happen then. And then they asked if I know about that, and I don't know about that.
Well, and practicum requirements are very different from
Yeah.
post-grad requirements because they're managed by the schools. So,
Mhm.
and for whatever reason, they felt like CSWs need that kind of direct supervision.
Yeah, and the key there is the direct observation, and so it is different than general
Yes.
supervision. So
Yeah, it's unusual, but not unheard of. So
well, that is the only other question I got in the chat.
okay, all right.
So I appreciate it, Laura, and I'm gonna let everybody go unless, let's see. Oh, we got another one. If you have time.
Sure. No, I'm here until 12:30 and
Yeah.
unless there are no more questions.
Yeah. So are there any allowances
Okay.
to see clients on a short-term basis outside of Utah, like 1 or 2 sessions, if they have established care already?
That is a complicated question because this is state-based. And there are some states that have a rule that says you can see somebody for 1 to 2 sessions in a crisis, but they're not, it's not universal. So you have to check with the state to that you want to work on if you want to be kosher. I mean, if not, then you can take your chances, but I'm not recommending that. I and it doesn't matter whether you've established care or not. It's the state that the person is in that matters and what their requirements are for this.
They typed, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Right. Any other questions? She is scheduled for 15 more minutes, but, but we do not have to take up your entire day, Laura. We appreciate you.
I am happy to answer anything that comes up, but
Yeah.
if you think of maybe you could put my address in the chat, Teresa, so that people, if they do think of things after we're done to that they want to ask me, they can feel free to shoot me an email.
All right. I just put your email address in the chat.
Thanks.
Yes. And I will also put link to the Clinical Social Work Association page again, because I did forget that. As a reminder, if you join the Clinical Social Work Association, you will have a lot more access to Laura and the knowledge that they have about the compact through the association. So check it out. And if that's a good fit for you, we do encourage you to join.
Thank you so much. And I understand there is a chance that Utah will have a society affiliated with CSWA in the not too distant future. And Jaylee, is that true? Is that still happening?
Yes, we are working on it. We're currently working on getting the 501c status.
Oh, excellent. All right. All right. Well, let's call it. And thank you for your attention. It's been a pleasure talking to you and talk again.
Okay, great. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.